Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our HBCU Leaders for Equity webinar, where you'll hear from our staff, as well as our participants and alumni. And so my name is Jasmine Knowles. I am the Managing Director of our Black Educators Initiative. And if we could go to the next slide. This evening, we will have an opportunity for you to learn about City Teaching Alliance, our recruitment team, as well as learn a little bit more about our Black Educators Initiative, and which I'm most excited about. We will have a panel discussion where you will hear from HBCU alums tonight and their experience in City Teaching Alliance, as well as in the classroom. And then we'll end by having a Q&A, as well as a surprise giveaway. So stay tuned to the end. We're super excited for you all to be here this evening. So going to the next slide. We are at City Teaching Alliance, our Black educators team. So again, as I said, I'm Jasmine Knowles. I started my career as a sixth grade English and social studies teacher in Philadelphia. And I've worked across the ed space, most recently working in Chicago at Chicago Public Schools before joining City Teaching Alliance. And as I thought about the importance of this work and the Black teachers and what I wanted to be for my students, but as well as the impact of having a Black teacher in my life and what that did for me in terms of my career and where I am now. This work that we are doing, it's mission critical, as it's really important as we think about just the time that we are in. And so really excited that you will get to hear from our current educators. Also on our team, we have Tiara Fowler, who is our assistant director, as well as Haley Bute, who's our manager. And so you'll hear from Haley later this evening. So going to the next slide, our recruitment team, I will turn it over to them to introduce themselves.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sabrina Davis. I am one of our assistant directors of recruitment for City Teaching Alliance. I specifically support our campuses. Really excited to be here with you tonight. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about City Teaching Alliance and the work that we're doing. But for the call specifically, I'm a proud HBCU graduate of the Johnson C. Smith University down in Charlotte, North Carolina. So always excited to join fam and join folks from all across like the HBCU nation. So really excited for tonight and to get to know you all. So turn it over to Tal.
I appreciate that, Sabrina, and welcome, y'all. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Tal. I'm the Assistant Director of Lead Generation. In my role, I focus a lot on our events and partnerships. If you can tell from the energy, I am a former kindergarten, first and second grade teacher, and so that is something that I love talking about is elementary education and the social emotional development. The reason I'm here is working for City Teaching Alliance. Really, I was drawn to the Black Educators Initiative and the need for greater representation in the classroom. And so I just love the intentionality of City Teaching Alliance and the support and development. And I'm actually going to pass it back to Sabrina, and we're going to go to the next slide to talk a little bit more about City Teaching Alliance and what we're aiming to do.
Awesome. So I'm really excited about what we're getting ready to do tonight, but more specifically, just excited about the work that City Teaching Alliance does. And I saved a little bit of my story to kind of launch us into this next part. I think I like to call myself an education OG now. Over a decade ago, got my start in education as a seventh grade English teacher. And then most recently, served as a founding vice principal of a high school in Southeast Washington, D.C., where I am so proud of the work that we got to do there. But the one thing that stayed constant, whether I was a classroom teacher or all the way up to a vice principal, is the folks that we have in front of students and our families matter. And so let's talk about why City Teaching Alliance is doing what they're doing and how we approach the work. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So first, I'm going to need a little bit of interaction from each of you. So get ready in the chat because I want to talk through some statistics really quickly just to get your mind jogged about some of the things. So my first question, I want y'all to see y'all light up the chat with this one. And some of you are going to be wrong, but that's okay. This is a safe space. First question, underserved schools lose what percentage of their teaching staff each year? Go ahead and just put a percentage as you think. What is the percentage of their teaching staff that they lose each year? Okay, seeing some numbers in the chat. Haley, we can go ahead and click to reveal this answer. So underserved schools, they lose 20% of their staffs each year, and 20% that may not seem like a lot. However, if a school has 30 teachers, they're likely to lose 6 by the end of the year. And this can have a true and like huge impact on the students because of the lack of consistency and continuity in the classroom. So keep that number in your mind, 20%. The next one, what percentage of today's teachers, the ones that are already there, believe that they have the skills needed to be effective in their classrooms? What do you all think? What percentage of teachers feel like they are prepared? All right, I'm seeing 30, 50, 80, 20, 50. We'd want this to be 100%, right? We want teachers to feel like they have the skills to need. Haley, would you go ahead and reveal this answer for our group? Only 34% of teachers believe that they even have the skills to be effective in their classrooms. And I'm often asked, like, why is Urban Teachers a 4-year program? And that seems like a really long time, and I always says, yes, it is definitely a commitment. However, it definitely takes time. And we're going to talk a little bit about like what that program actually looks like and why we say that it's actually time needed to really help teachers feel successful in that classroom. And let's do the final one, Haley. Don't click this yet, my bad. What percentage of all US K-12 educators identify as Black, people of color, Black, Indigenous, or people of color? What would you all believe that percent is? That percent. Okay, I'm saying 30, 50, 25, 50, 34. Okay, now we would think, right, if this was like an equitable workplace, that the number of Black, Indigenous, people of color that are represented in teachers should also reflect the what our students represent. That's actually not true. Haley, let's go ahead and reveal this as well. Of all the K-12 teachers in the US, only 20 identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And we know that this percentage is way significantly smaller than the actual Black, Indigenous, people of color that make up actual students in classrooms. So students are seeing way less educators that actually represent who they are. And so we can go ahead and click to the next information to show you all. And just to make sure you all, I know we're on like a Zoom and it's like open, just make sure that you are muted for this. For some reason, about half of my screen, can you all see the whole? Oh, there it goes. Now it's loaded. So I want to talk about, based on these 3 things, what our founders realized was that teachers were not reaching their full potential in the classroom because they just didn't have enough time, because by the time they got there, they burnt out. Teachers, they didn't have the skills they needed to work with the students in Baltimore Public Schools, which is where we got our start. And then teachers were burning out at alarming rates. Let's go ahead to the next slide to talk a little bit more about like our solution and our model for this issue. So first, starting in year 1 of our residency, we have a gradual release program. And this is where the majority of our coursework and our Masters of Teaching work actually happens. I'm going to breeze kind of past these slides because I want us to get to the meat of tonight. As year 2, you are known as a fellow, and this is where you actually start as an actual lead teacher in your classroom, as opposed to the first year, which is a residency, where you're actually paired with a lead teacher. And in year 2 is where you actually finish the Masters of Teaching. Year 3, we have our senior fellow. You continue as a lead teacher, and that's where you start earning those teacher certifications. And then finally, in your 3rd year of being a lead teacher, but actually year 4 is where you become an alumni of our program. And this is where you continue to get additional like leadership, mentorship, and opportunities actually in your school community. Let's go ahead to just one more thing that I kind of want to point out for our program. These things are all supported by regular professional development throughout the 4 years of the program. And one more click, Haley. And one thing that sets us apart from all other organizations that do an alternative or a different journey to the classroom is that 85 hours of one-on-one coaching for the first 3 years of the program. This is something that is unheard of and is like no other program that is out there that will help you and prepare you to enter the classroom. Got 2 more slides, Haley. I'm really proud of the communities that we get to partner with, that we get to work alongside with. When I think about the communities that we get to be in, these communities are so unique in our program because we are not a super huge organization, but because we're so intentional about where we are, we have the opportunity to really tailor our program specifically to the communities that we get to be in. And tonight you'll get to hear from folks who are a part of those different regions. So our initial region, Baltimore, we serve Baltimore, Dallas. I know we got some Dallas, Texas folks in here. Philly, which is our newest region. And of course, my home away from home, Washington, D.C. is also a region that we have supported for a very long time. So that's a little bit about our program. Finally, I just want to talk about this last thing. And I know our slides are kind of lagging just a little bit, but I want to talk about an opportunity. I know that a lot of you either are HBCU grads or some of you are actually college students and you're attending university right now. But we have something really awesome called Campus Activators that are really a branch of our organization that exists on the campuses that you sit on now. And I'm really proud of this program. Tal and I and our team got to pilot this program last semester. So if you're a student at Morehouse, Howard, Morgan State, Spelman, Texas Southern, Lincoln, A&T Bowie, if you're here, let me see you in the chat. If you will go to any of these schools or you've been to any of these schools or you're an alum, this is where we have campus activators. And so I want you to know there are actual people or young folks, college students who know a lot about City Teaching Alliance on your campus. And so if you want to get connected with them, you'll definitely have the opportunity when we send the follow-up email, we'll make sure that you can get connected to your campus activator. Those folks are on your campuses doing classroom presentations, student orgs, and definitely look out this spring because they're going to be bringing some really awesome events to your campus. I've talked a whole lot and I want us to get to the meat of our program tonight. So I'm going to turn it back over to the team so they can jump into our panel discussion for tonight.
Thanks, Sabrina. And so I know I am standing in between you and the panel and what you came for. So I will quickly just talk about the Black Educators Initiative, which is another thing that sets City Teaching Alliance apart. So Haley, if you go to the next slide, BEI was launched in 2020 because City Teaching Alliance, we understand that there are systemic barriers that really inhibit and prohibit some Black educators from becoming teachers and joining our program. And so we see this as a generational movement to increase the number of Black educators in our city. So in the next slide, we won't go through all of this, but we have 3 core tenets in terms of cultivation, community, and commitment that it's at the core of what we do and what we try to infuse in our programming events throughout the year. And we'll go to the next slide. And so as part of BEI, so it's not only programming and support, you also have access to financial support over the course of your 4 years in the program. And so in your residency in your fellow year 1, you have you will receive up to $1,250 in support grant, and a minimum of $10,000 and up to $12,000, $500 in direct tuition payment to American University, which is our partner graduate school. And then we in fellow year 2 and fellow year 3, you'll continue to receive this support grant. We go to the next slide. As we think about just our aspirational goal, we want to ensure that we are seeing an increase in terms of the Black and Latinx individuals and educators. And so we want to accelerate the innovations across recruitment, preparation, and retaining these Black educators in our schools. And so again, for us, it's coupling these tuition supports and as well as loan forgiveness with our existing and new program supports. And so finally, as we think about and this is on the next slide, as we think about the legacy of HBCUs and preparing Black teachers and really why we have this webinar tonight, we know that as we look nationally, 50% of public school educators come from HBCUs. And a recent study also found that Black students performed better in math in North Carolina when taught by an HBCU educated teacher. So we know, right, many of you that who attended HBCUs, that there's a storied history and legacy of preparing Black educators that dates back to the 1800s, right? When we did not have access to other universities. And so even now, critically in this moment, it's still important the role that HBCUs have in our community. And many Black teachers who go to HBCUs are well prepared to enter into the classroom, but more importantly, they understand the importance of building a strong sense of community. They understand the importance of representation. They understand the importance of seeing someone in the front of the classroom that looks like you. And so that is at the core of what we do. And so I will turn it over to Haley, who will introduce our panelists who we have tonight, and then we will introduce our moderator. And so we're really excited for you to hear from educators who went to HBCUs, who are doing this work, and to really hear about the impact that you can have if you decide to join City Teaching Alliance.
Okay, so now the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Now I'm going to introduce our panel. So we have 3 people on our panel tonight. I'm going to start with Jay. Jay is a resident in our program, and the site that she's at is Philly, and she is currently on our secondary ELA track. So Jay, if you want to wave, smile, wave, hey, okay. And then next we have Ahmad. Ahmad is a year 2 fellow at our Dallas site. And his track is 3rd grade, and he teaches all subjects. And then last but not least, we have Chris, which is an alum of our program from our DC site. And he taught and teaches 6th and 7th grade social studies. So that's our panel. And now I'll have our moderator introduce herself.
All right. What's up, y'all? I'm gonna bring the energy up just a little bit. My name is Tanasia Pagano. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. I am in the Dallas office, so over here in DFW in the Dirty South. I am the Senior Assistant Director of Fellow and Alumni Engagement, and all that means is that after your first year in the program, I am here to support our DFW personnel through their entire rest of the program and through their alumni years. HBCU shout out, I am a graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, the only Catholic HBCU, #1 for placing African Americans in medical school. We learned that like it is driven into your brain. And while I was at Xavier, my major was English language arts. I started out pre-med, but found my love for teaching, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But English language arts with a minor in social studies. So I'm super excited to be here with you all tonight, to be here moderating, having a discussion with Jay, with Ahmad, and with Chris. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. As we kind of heard before, we know that having a teacher of color positively impacts all students, so not just Black and brown students. I remember the effect that having a Black teacher had on me, so I kind of want to start at the beginning, and this question is for Jay and for Chris. When did you have your first Black teacher, and what impact did they have on you as a person and as a student? Jay?
Thank you so much, Tanasia. Hi, everybody. It's good to see some gorgeous faces on camera. Feel free to say what's up in the chat, especially if you are from Morgan State. To answer your question, Tanasia, I think my first Black teacher was 1st grade. I went from a Catholic school in Philly to a predominantly white school in the suburbs. And my first teacher, Miss Neal, I remember her name to this date because that woman taught me what it was to be Black in a white world, in a white school, in a white school district. I come from a family of immigrants, and if you have immigrant families, you kind of, you may or may not know, but there's sometimes a disconnect between being, when my family is Caribbean, being Grenadian, being Jamaican, being from South America, to being Black in America. We don't have the same experiences. My parents couldn't prepare me for what it meant to be Black in America. So Miss Neal, shout out to her. She taught me, as much as you can teach a 1st grader, this is who you are and this is how people are going to treat you. She saw certain experiences that I was having in the classroom, and she took the time to pull me aside and say, hey, this is something that you're going to experience for the rest of your life. And that stuck with me. And I was able to navigate my experience in different environments, finally ending up back at Morgan State to teaching the exact same thing in the city of Philadelphia. So shout out Miss Neal. That's a real one.
Thank you for that, Jay. I'd love to hear the same information from you, Chris.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening, everyone. I think Jay was very fortunate because wasn't able to have my first Black teacher until I got to my 8th grade year in middle school. So that's after I've already learned to read, math, been put through the pressure of, those math, those division and subtraction test speed drills you had to go through when you left elementary school. So it wasn't until I got into like 8th grade, and I think that was interesting because that's when you start to kind of really cement your identity. Well, not even cement, but you start to really figure out who you are or you want to be in that year. And she was overwhelming love. And that's why I just remember the most about Cassandra Pennington, my 8th grade ELA teacher. Like, I've never been in a class and felt like the teacher truly cared like that about me and then like pushed me and like knew me. Like, I gave her the same respect that I gave my mother. And it wasn't like I didn't give other teachers respect, but when you have a teacher that looks like you and you feel like you have that connection and they feel like they care about you and they're pushing you, it's just a different feeling is special. And I think it does commit you to the work and makes you commit to doing it a lot stronger.
Wow, thank you for that, Chris. And I'm glad that you were able to bring up the fact that you and Jay's experience were so different. She had her first Black teacher at a young age. Yours happened a lot later on. I'm interested, audience, feel free to put in the chat here. When did you have your first Black teacher? If you have had one yet, I'd be interested in knowing that as we prepare to talk to Ahmad and Chris again with our next question. 6th grade, 9th grade, freshman year at university, preschool, 1st grade. That's awesome. I personally didn't have my first Black teacher until the 8th grade, so I'm right there with you, Chris. I remember her vividly. She was my English teacher, and I'm pretty sure she probably has an impact or has had an impact on the reason why I teach English language arts right now, or taught English language arts in education. So thank you all for sharing that. The next question is for Ahmad and Chris. I kind of talked about the fact that Xavier is the reason why I'm an educator today. I originally went to Xavier University for pre-med, but in doing a tutoring program there, I fell in love with the aha moments. For those of you that aren't in teaching or don't know about that yet, that's when a kid finally gets it. So I was tutoring some people who had not yet passed their state exam. And whenever I got the satisfaction of them understanding the things that they didn't understand this whole time, I was like, wow, I want to feel this feeling every day. Who cares about organic chemistry? Let's turn this into a teaching career. So how did your HBCU experience prepare you for your time in the classroom? And how did that affect your decision to go into education? Let's start with Ahmad.
All right. How's everyone doing tonight? My name is Ahmad Richardson, as it says here on the screen. I'm a proud graduate of Morehouse College, class of 2020. Let's go. So yeah, to hop into it. The question was, how did my experience at my HBCU impact my why into going into the classroom, correctly? All right, cool. Yeah. So for one, Morehouse College is the only college created solely for the advancement of African American men, like period. So that really pushed me right there going into the classroom. But also the school was founded upon principles that wanted to promote Black men early on, of course, to go into the two fields. Education, there's this joke on campus that, Morehouse was made for preachers and teachers. And they really pushed that commitment to service all around campus. And my freshman year, I was a part of a mentorship organization. And really, I think Yeah, one of my mentors, so I was a part of Student Government Association. One of my mentors at that time, he was like, yeah, come with us. We started a program. It was called Give a Book, Be a Mentor. So we would donate books, donated all these books. And at the end of the semester, we actually went to the school and read those books and became mentors and pen pals with the other students that were at that school. And like how Tanasia just mentioned, like just being in the classroom with those kids and seeing the lack of resources that they had, but still seeing their eagerness and their excitement to learn and being there and watching them have that aha moment really just clicked like my freshman year. And I don't want to say I've been addicted to it, but literally that just kept fueling me like from that moment moving forward. I was like, yo, like this is dope. So I was going back every week, you know, whenever there was some type of program going on the campus that had to do with any type of like realm of education, of literacy. Like I was trying to make sure I was hopping in. So that's one point. And then just one more, just being at Morehouse, such a small campus, just that sense of community that we were able to build like on campus. I really feel as if it has helped me like transcend and build that in my classroom as well. And lastly, patience. We've all graduated, or we all attend HBCU, so we know you need a lot of patience to get through financial aid, housing, you know, everything. So you know, in that moment, you're like, like this is terrible. But then once you get into like the real world, once you get into your field, you realize like those moments were really preparing you. And so now that I'm in the classroom and I have all of these things possibly going wrong, you know, my patience is already built, you know, and I'm ready. I can take on any situation. I feel like my HBCU really prepped me for that. Sorry if that was a mouthful, but yeah.
Oh, you're good. We appreciate you sharing all that information with us. Great points. Chris, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yes, I would love to say that the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University was the sole reason that I became an educator. But I think my story starts a little bit before that. In high school, I went to a high school in Richmond, Virginia, and it was like High School Musical. It was diverse. It was a little bit of everything. Like there was no one majority. That's what I thought school looked like. So when just growing up, I thought my school was what every school looked like. So I went to a HBCU because I really wanted to connect with my culture. And as we speak about notable people, you know, the sit-in movement was started by 4 great men that went to North Carolina A&T State University. So there's a culture about being the change you wish to see in the world. And I was able to join also a fraternity that just really instilled in me a culture for service on campus. So when I went to A&T, it just instilled in me this pride, right, of what the best could be. We are the talented, not even the talented, we are beautiful, right? And we're just such a diverse culture. We're beautiful, like barbers and beauticians and scientists and engineers and PR and hosts and all these things. So I just saw, it was like going to like Oz, right? And then when I left and I went after, I went back to DC after graduation, the school I went to was a middle school named Johnson Middle School, and their mascot, ironically, was a panther, same as mine, in high school. And it was just the school experience that they were going through was polar opposite of it kind of burst my bubble to realize like, oh wow, all schools are not created equally. Like just because like your zip code, that really does determine the value of your education. And that's some things that these kids don't have access to. So going to A&T, I had this Oz experience, and I'm going to the school in DC where everyone looks like me, right? And I'm like, these kids deserve a shot to go to college to get that experience. So like it really just motivated me to like make A&T so big because I wanted them to see what college could be and how they can see themselves in these spaces and they can see beyond their circumstances. So like drumline is very big with A&T. So I say that all the time. So like they see the movies, I invest in my students in the culture. Like when I went to homecoming, they see the pictures, they see the videos because I really want them to get that experience. Like when you're in my class, you're in A&T, like you're a mini A&T in here. So you would be excellent. You're prideful, you take value in your work. And that's really what I took from my experiences through high school, middle school, and college into my classroom.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to transition into talking about your experience in the program and more specifically talking about the City Teaching Alliance mission and the mission of your undergraduate university. In short, our mission at City Teaching Alliance, of course, is to improve the outcomes of children in urban schools by preparing teachers who disrupt systems. We've kind of talked about this or seen highlights of it in some of your stories as well, but what alignment have you seen between City Teaching Alliance mission and vision and the mission and vision of your undergraduate university? So for me, I know that at Xavier, they were really actually written out in their mission is to make connections to create a more just and humane society by preparing leaders. And I think that that's exactly what Teaching Alliance, even though it's more specific to the realm of education. So, and kind of thinking about, this is for everyone, and kind of thinking about our mission as City Teaching Alliance and maybe the mission at your university, whether you know it, have it memorized, or just kind of thinking about it. How do you think that there was alignment between our mission and your university? Anybody can pop off whenever you're ready.
All right, I'll go ahead and grab it. I was ready for this question. So the mission of Morehouse College is to develop men with disciplined minds who will lead lives of leadership and service. All right. I feel like that intertwines just so much with City Teaching Alliance, because the main thing that we do in the classroom every day, I mean, we get paid for what we do, but at the end of the day, this is service. You know, we're servicing our community. We're servicing the children in our classrooms daily. And you really have to come with that excellence mindset to be a leader, even if you're like, even in your resident year, like don't be afraid to step up and be that leader on your campus. If you see something lacking, like step up and be the change that you really want to see. Not to sound cliche, but that's really what it is to me.
I'm gonna hop in. Ahmad, I love your response about bringing in Morehouse's mission. I will add on that Morgan State's motto is growing the future, leading the world. If that's not a motto for teachers, I don't know what is. And I think that the biggest alignment that I've seen is just that idea around growing the future. The first place, and also not just growing the future and really investing in the future, but also making a place in that growth for Black culture to shine. The first time that I heard like hip hop or rap music played in the classroom surrounding a lesson was in college at Morgan. And since then, that completely changed my path about the value of Black culture in education. There is a place for our culture and for our personalities and for our history and everything surrounding who we are as people. There is a place for that in educational spaces. And I think that when you go to HBCU, that a lot of times that's going to be the first place that you learn that. Just because of who's around you. And with City Teaching Alliance is giving me a place in an area and the tools and the confidence, especially the confidence to bring that into my classroom in a place where, you know, we in City Teaching Alliance, our entire focus is around cultural consciousness and cultural relevancy. But a lot of teachers also in the school district don't have those values. They aren't taught the same things as us. They aren't exposed to the same experiences as us. It's our job to bring that into the classroom so that we can promote that same confidence for our kids. And that's been the biggest alignment that I've seen. City Teaching Alliance, Philadelphia especially, has been extremely supportive in that and instilling that in the residents to let you know, like, hey, who you are is valid in the classroom and it should show up in the classroom. You don't have to take the Black off when you step into work.
All right. Well, at A&T, one of our biggest slogans is Aggie Pride. So what that means is achieving great goals in everything while producing renowned individuals dedicated to excellence. And I think there was an alignment because the first part is an Aggie, right? Achieving great goals in everything. Coming into this work, we heard the beginning of the presentation, how everything went about the statistics on about why the need is real, why we heard these personal narratives and stories and experiences about what the impact is. So we know going into the work what we're up against, right? So you have to achieve great goals and everything because it is about these kids. And I think what I liked about CTA compared to any other program is the preparation. You can't just go in like just fresh and think you're about to be the best teacher just because off strength I'm a cool person, or I got, like my people like with me, or I used to babysit, or I used to live like that. Stuff doesn't translate. Um, it helps, but it doesn't translate. CTA gives you that coaching and that support, and that along the way, that 80 hours really translates into somebody holding your hand, speaking to you, affirming you, giving you that real conversation before you are even responsible for being a classroom teacher. So you get that year of me trying things out, being expected to fail, and learning before I'm even held responsible for a class. And not a lot of programs do that. A lot of other programs give you that little summer institute and they toss you in, and you know what? It is what it is. You sink and swim based on what you make work from that. You have coaching, you have support, there's alumni, there's a network, you get mentors, like you get coach. It's like there's so many people that would, like, the only way that you're not succeeding is if like you just shut them all out and you just feel like you got to do this all by riding on your back. And the last part of that, producing renowned individuals dedicated to excellence. We know that the work is we have to build these kids up. We know what they're up against, whether you're in Philly, whether you're in Dallas, whether you are in DC, whether you're in Baltimore. Like, the work is real. We see what's happening on in the news every day. So like we need to continue to support these communities and pull these people up to give them opportunities that they may not be able to see otherwise. And not that we're trying to go in there to save them, but we're trying to go in there to serve them and be able to support them in what they need.
Perfect. Love that so much. Okay, last question, because we definitely want to leave time for some Q&A for the people that are joining us here today. I'm going to give you your 15 seconds, not your 15 seconds of like fame, but your 15 seconds of convincing some candidate who might be considering joining City Teaching Alliance, but they're on the fence. So I'm going to explain a little bit more why you think through your 15 seconds. We know that the field of education has its challenges, especially for our Black educators. We also know that Black students really feel the impact of having a teacher that reflects their identity. So you have 15 seconds to give the candidates on here your quick little, this is why you need to come, to convince them to go ahead and put in that application and follow through with the application process. Chris, you going first. You had time. You've been here since 2013. You had time to think about it. You should know. Let's go, Chris.
I do. Okay, so I'm gonna give you one little correction. I used to teach, but right now I went through I was a dean, vice principal, so now I'm working in central office, right? So with that, I would say CTA makes you the smartest person in the room, all right? Because those master degrees, you are a valued opinion on your team. It gives you that extra boost when you want to go up and grow your career because you have those master's degree, you have that experience. So that alone is already going to give you what you need to be above the rest.
You got it. Good job. So we setting up the resume for you. All right, Ahmad, here we go. Your 15 seconds. Let's hit it.
Really thinking about it, if not you, then who? Our children need us. Like, these kids need to see a reflection of who they are in the classroom. Yeah, like we read the statistics earlier. Black men in education only make up 2%. And that's crazy. And like I don't even know how to put it any different. The kids really need us. 3, 2, 1. If not you, then who? Really, that's it.
Got it. That's it. Cut. That's a wrap in the session. Just kidding. Jay, it's your turn. 15 seconds. Give us your spiel.
Okay, I'm not gonna be so elegant about it, but who is that friend that you call when you were like, hold on, am I tripping about this situation? I gotta call, let me call Dale and see if I'm tripping about the situation. That's CTA. Education is a white world. Admin is white. When you come in and you try to bring your Blackness into the classroom, there's going to be people who are going to look at you crazy and they're going to come for you. CTA are the people that are going to have your back and say, no, this is cultural relevancy. This is cultural competency. This is what the kids need. Look around in this classroom and look at this teacher. they have a relationship that you will never, ever understand. So yeah, CTA got your back.
I didn't want to cut you off. I was trying to give you the infomercial, but I didn't have time for it. So you got the 15-second commercial as well. But thank you all so much, Jay, Ahmad, Chris, for answering these scripted questions. I think I'm going to pass it back over to one of my teammates here to help lead the Q&A from the visitors that we have here tonight. Thank you all so much.
Thank you to this panel. We couldn't have asked for a better group. So we are going to open it up to Q&A. We're going to keep this panel spotlighted so for all of you to see. But if you have a question, please put it in the chat so that we are able to see your question. If you want to direct it to one person or to multiple folks, you can ask us about, there's some prompts on the screen, but also want to open this up if you have a question for our illustrious panelists who have joined us this evening. And if you don't have a question, as you know, we are all teachers. So we are already ready. We love wait time. We will wait. And so there is a question about city placement. So I'm going to pass that over to the recruitment team. If we can get Sabrina or Tal, if you could answer the city placement. Okay, so there's already someone who's answered. Some of these we might just leave to the chat. We can chat you, and then we'll use our panelists if there are other questions. So while we are waiting, it seems that we're waiting for more questions to come in. One question that I will ask our panelists is, we know that as Black folks, we are not, being Black is not a monolith, right? And so there are many different identities that we have and that we share, and that the Black experience is not monolithic. In what ways have you been pushed to really think about the uniqueness of the experiences of the students that you serve and that you teach or have taught in the past? And anyone who wants to answer that on our panel can do that.
Can you do me a favor and repeat the question?
Sure. Yeah. So as we know, right, that we share a lot of identity markers and experiences with our students, but not all of our experiences are the same, right? We might be from different, I grew up in the South, but I taught in Philly, right? And so as you're thinking about your experience that you brought in, your experience and identity that you brought into the classroom, in what ways did that push you to think about the experiences that your students might have and what they are bringing each and every day to school?
I think that's right. Like, we're not all monolithic. I think going in thinking that, oh, because like I may have come from an urban area, this is the same as a community service. Not. I think even if it's like you are coming from the same city, the experiences are different. So like it gives you, for me, it made me a student in the situation, right? Because you can't go into a culture and assume that you know what's best for them. You have to learn for them. So in those situations, regardless that we may have similar stories, we may both all be Black, we have to be a student and learn what is the values, what is acceptable, how do things move, and how do people interact. But it made me like really want to go out into the community and really build the relationships with the families so I can understand what I was seeing in the classroom on a deeper level.
I'll add on to that, Chris. I agree about, being a student in the situation. Even being from the same city and teaching in the same city as my kids, they live completely different lives than the one I lived when I was their age, than the one I live now. It's part of the times, but it definitely, that alone has made me a better teacher, being able to step back and be like, I think I know who you are because we're from the same place. I think we have the same experiences. And then you come at me with something different. It completely changed my attitude about how I teach. I take a back seat. Personality takes a back seat, and I'm really just to absorb their stories, absorb their experiences, and absorb my observations about how best to serve them in the classroom.
Thank you, Jay and Chris. There was a question in the chat. Did you all know that you wanted to be a teacher when you stepped into college, when you got to college, or is that something that came later on?
I can grab this one. As I mentioned earlier, for me, it came maybe like second semester. And honestly, I felt the urge, but I felt like I was still trying to fight it. I was like, well, you know, my classmates right now, they're doing these internships at JP Morgan and Chase. They're out here with Microsoft, they're with Apple, you know, they're getting the bag. And, you know, I'm here, you know, teaching over the summer, but that really ties into you really knowing your why God put you on this earth and what you are here to fulfill. And I knew that service was something that was really rooted in my heart. So that's what helped me push to make the decision to go into the field of education, knowing my why.
I'll be honest, this was not, you couldn't have told me that I would be a teacher, that I would have been a dean, that I would have been any of those. Like, that was not what I was. A journalism major at A&T. I was a Crosby kid. So like, I thought I was going to be working in the entertainment industry. And similar, like when after college got real, it went my senior year and I was like, okay, I needed a job. I actually did City Year, which is a nonprofit organization that like is similar, where no, it's not similar because that was the trenches. But I did City Year, which is a AmeriCorps program where you work inside of schools and you're a mentor to students. And in doing that, I fell in love with education because I was seeing the impact I was able to have. And from there, Urban Teachers, but now CTA is a partnership with them. So I was able to apply to this program through the connection with City Year. But literally, once I stepped into the schools for that little gap year, it shifted my trajectory and my life from that point forward.
Then we'll end with Jay if you want to answer, and we'll shift to our wrap up.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the time that I was about 12 years old. That's just something that I knew I was going to do. School was my safe place, and I wanted to recreate that experience for others. But I didn't know how big the need was for teachers who have that mission and have that drive until I was exposed to City Teaching Alliance, honestly. I didn't know the statistics that we shared in the beginning. I just knew, hey, we're losing a lot of Black teachers. We're losing a lot of teachers, period. Kids don't want to come to school. But actually seeing the statistics in front of you was a big driving force for me to actually continue and go through this program on this path.
Thank you, Jay, Ahmad, Chris, for being on our panel, and Tanasia for being such an amazing moderator. The color, just your own experiences that you brought to this. We could not have picked a better panel and a moderator. And so we will wrap up. And again, please wait, do not drop off. We have a lot of fun things coming up in the last couple of minutes. If we can go to the next slide. So we, as we have talked about, so many folks in the chat are so excited to apply, and we have our applications that are due January 16th. So I'm going to turn this over to Sabrina and Tal to really talk about what is coming up for our application deadlines and appy hours that are coming up this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jasmine. So I want to talk to y'all about appy hours, okay? And now this is a really, really great opportunity. So our next application deadline is next week on Tuesday, the 16th at 11:59 p.m. I know some of you who are college students, y'all like to work to the last minute. So we're definitely want to make sure that you get your application in there. But we do have appy hours that's going to be this week on Thursday at 7 p.m. where a couple of members of my team, as well as Haley, who's on the call tonight, they'll be on there to discuss your application and any tips that you may need to make a really great application. And so I really suggest if you have your phone with you, you can go ahead and use the QR code on the screen to go ahead and register for that appy hours, because we would love to see your application. And just a quick little plug for Baltimore, for those of you who do apply at this deadline and do preference Baltimore, there is a $4,000 stipend that goes along with that. So yes, join us on Thursday night for happy hours. If you have any questions about the application or you just want to talk a little bit more, we'll definitely help you out. And if you go to the next screen, Haley, I'm gonna let Tall jump in and talk about this slide.
Thank you for that. And also, I just want to thank our panelists again. What an insightful and just incredible conversation, and really appreciate all the questions in the chat as well. And so Alan couldn't be here today, but Alan is also an alumni from an HBCU and would love to talk to folks who are seniors in college. If you're graduating in May of 2024, please scan with Alan. If you've already graduated, if you're in grad school, if you're an underclassman, if you're looking for campus activator opportunities, if you're looking for opportunities in our post-grad placement, please scan my calendar. And so really excited to meet. We're going to hold this slide up for a moment. And then I'm really also going to encourage, and Jay, I already saw you doing this, to our panelists, if you'd like to share your email in the chat. I know that we had to go through and that there might be some lingering questions. And so just want to invite y'all to follow up with our panelists and connect with them on LinkedIn. This is how you start growing your network, and also see the other folks here and look them up as well. This is how you can start building your network across other HBCUs as well. We're going to have a lot of follow-up opportunities, but we have a raffle that we need to get to. And so with that being said, I'm going to pass it back over to our BEI team.
Thank you, Tal. So we have an opportunity for you to win some HBCU swag. So you can scan this bit.ly, Chris. I see the face, I see the mouth job. So really excited about this opportunity of partnership with HBCU Pride. So this is a survey. So you can either put the bit.ly, we'll put the bit.ly link in the chat box, or you could scan the survey. So we're going to give you all a few minutes, about 2 to 3 minutes, to complete this survey. And we will, as we see the survey results come in, we will be entering you all into a raffle to get some HBCU swag. So please make sure you fill that out. Your name and your email needs to be there so we can call your name. Thank you, Sabrina, for putting the survey in the chat. We're going to take 2 to 3 minutes to do that. While we're doing that, if there are any other lingering questions that you have while we have panelists here, this is a great opportunity for you all to ask a question to them, or put another question that you have in the chat for our recruitment team. So feel free to do that if you've completed the survey already, make sure you get your survey in first, and then feel free to ask a question if you have an additional question.
We've got one response so far.
And that one person will be the person that gets the survey, will get the swag because they have completed it. So please make sure that you have done that. There's a question about the uptick in gun violence in schools, and if that has, if there are any feelings of fear or safety with that. If anyone feels would like to answer that, feel free to.
I'm gonna hop on. This is actually a great question. This year, I've had 2 lockdown situations so far with my kids, and this being my residency year, I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to navigate. Even with the host teacher in the room, I had no idea what to do. And I was actually panicking, and it was obviously, there's a lot of fear surrounding that situation. What shocked me the most was how unaffected my kids were. We are in Philadelphia. A lot of these kids grew up on the sound of gunshots. They've known people who are incarcerated for gun violence. They know people who are victims of gun violence. It's as terrible as it is about to sound coming out of my mouth, it's an everyday thing for my kids. And that is really what terrifies me. The knowing that they had an active shooter situation at 9 o'clock in the morning as they were walking into school, came into the classroom, sat down, and it was a normal day for them. That's what terrifies me more than the gun violence and my safety. it's the attitude around it. How do we get them to realize that this is not a normal thing that they should be experiencing? Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate that, but that was an excellent question because it is real and it is happening.
Yeah, and I echo that as well. I don't know, especially so as I mentioned, I'm here on the Dallas cohort and cohort 2021. So my first year as a fellow year one teacher was the Uvalde school shooting out here in Texas. I think that was like in 2022. Um, and moving from that, of course, you know, schools are now implementing all these different drills of sorts to teach kids about how to act when that lockdown happens. And as Jay mentioned, like they were so unfazed by it, like they were taking it as a joke, you know, they're knocking on the walls, they're laughing. And you really just have to find that place or you know figure out how real you really want to get with your scholars, let them know you know this is really important. And with me being with the younger kids, it was really hard for them to grasp the seriousness of the situation. But you really just have to be transparent with them. I feel like you know, but still have that sense of empathy to understand. Like you know, they might not get it yet, but one day they will. One thing that really helped me, getting them to really understand the seriousness of it, we found a book on YouTube. Can't remember the exact name of it, but we were able to find like a children's book that taught children how to navigate in situations like that, which is scary that we have things like that and that we have to go through situations like that with our children, but it's real life right now.
Thank you, Ahmad. And thank you all for just the really thoughtful and insightful questions that you have asked our panelists. So what we will do, we will end the recording now, but we are going to go right into the drawing and the raffle. I think Sabrina is preparing that.